Hey guys, T here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 4 battleships for the upcoming Ranked Season number 2. Starts next Monday, goes for 2 weeks. You can see here on the screen I got the Brittany selected as my top pick. I do want to preface this by saying that these Tier 4 battleships for the most part play fairly similarly, and I think they're kind of interchangeable in where you want to rank them, at least maybe the top 2 or 3. So as always, this is my opinion, but you can take it with however much salt you need to get through it. So what's up with the Brittany, the Bretagne? Dreadnought style battleship. Pretty much all of them at tier 4 are, except for the Kongo, which we'll talk about. But it's kind of a slow lumbering beast. This one seems to be more on the heavily armored side compared to a lot of the French battleships, especially as you go up the tier. They tend to be a little bit more extreme damage output potential, but lightly armored. This one still maintains the high damage output, but at least from my experience in the ship, seems to be pretty well armored. And for that reason, there's not a lot of downsides for this one. I guess the main drawback, the HP pool, it's 41,700 on my builds, which that's about 5.5 lower than the Koenig / Iron Duke, and it's by far the lowest at the tier for the battleships, at least the ships that we currently have. Speed-wise, at least the way I got it set up, it's the slowest at the tier, but pretty much all these tier 4 battleships, with the exception of the Kongo, are kind of in the same speed range. They're not really designed for speed, so that's not really anything to be too concerned about, in my opinion. But I think battleships this season 4, I think they're going to probably be they're going to be pretty important, I think. Destroyers, we'll see how they go. I mean, they're all early generation destroyers. I don't think those ships tend to be as effective as later higher tier destroyers are, but we'll see. You guys need to keep in mind when I'm doing these tier 4s, I don't play a whole heck of a lot of tier 4. There may be a lot of you guys watching that play a lot more tier 4 than I do, so if I keep that in mind. My view of tier 4 destroyers as a whole, though, I don't hold them in high regard. You guys are all thinking about the kamikaze in your mind. We're going to talk about destroyers again tomorrow, but I think I'm going to shock you a little bit with what I have to say when it comes to the tier 4 destroyers. We'll see. I mean, the battleships can pretty much one-shot all the cruisers in the game except for the Emily, which we talked about yesterday on the cruiser video. And destroyers, early generation destroyers, that kind of have limited offensive capabilities. So I really think that the battleships are probably going to be carrying the weight. Good cruiser players that are utilizing cover can definitely carry the game, and I think good cruiser players are going to be the difference for a lot of these matches. That's my prediction anyways. I think the destroyers, if they're spotting, if they're capturing objectives, if they're trying to kill other destroyers, they'll have a good impact. If they're trying to bust through and, torp battleships, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I might be wrong. And, those of you that... I'm not going to spoil what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. So anyway, Brittany, I got number 1, only real drawbacks, low speed, which is pretty common for this tier, and low HP. So, I think that ship will do pretty well. Number 2, I got the Koenig. Now, I probably would have had this number 1, but it just took a buff 2 weeks ago when Ranked was first introduced to the game, that last update. And the main thing, I think they slowed down the rudder shift, which should kind of diminish the maneuverability a little bit. And then I think they also, let me just double check. Yeah, they lowered the AP damage. So it's already that was kind of the trade-off for that ship, is already low damage. They have low caliber guns, low damage. I haven't actually played it since the nerf, so maybe you guys can let me know in the comments how hard that's hit the ship. but it's a very sturdy ship. Functioning turtleback, good armor schemes, very hard to deal a lot of damage to, especially since this is all going to be tier 4 ships. I think the Koenig is going to be a very sturdy battleship, and you could potentially do kind of a durability build, Ciliax or Hyde if you have them. I still think these early Germans are going to function well with accuracy builds, so Von Hipper or Hyde are your kind of two options for that. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's a lot of options for the German battleships as to how you want to set them up. And overall, I think Koenig should be a pretty good contender for the second slot. Iron Duke, when I was thinking about this, I had it slotted anywhere from 1 to 3. You can really go anywhere with this. This is also a very durable ship. And again, when it's not going to be up-tiered with tier 5s, this ship also has a good turtleback, I believe. Citadels pretty much completely below the water, so you're not going to Citadel the Iron Duke very often, except for probably a really long range. The trap with the ship is it has extremely high fire chance, 40%, which is good. But it also has the highest AP damage for battleships at the tier, so people see the fire damage and they think, okay, we're going to shoot fire or HE every salvo. What you want to do with this Iron Duke, in my opinion at least, shoot those AP rounds into the broadside targets. Cruisers shoot waterline, battleships shoot upper half of the ship. And, what you're going to be seeing, especially in these ranked, is people playing battleships well, angling and defending themselves. That's when you bust out the HE. That's when you start setting them on fire. That's when the power of the Iron Duke comes to bear. And so I think maybe for that reason, it's a good ship in randoms anyways, but I think playing against good players once you get into the high tiers, maybe the Iron Duke will be kind of tipped in the balance because it can kind of dislodge well-entrenched battleships, where some of these other ones might have a little bit of trouble doing so. So we'll see how the Iron Duke goes. It would definitely not surprise me to see that playing well. I'll probably bust that one out as well as rank goes on here. After that, I got Kongo. Kongo, I'm starting to really like. Probably the first 4 or 5 months when this game came out, it just seemed really inaccurate to me. This is one of those that I'm not 100% sure. Is it because I have a good Cunningham influencing a good Takagi at this point? And because of that, it can hit targets that it couldn't hit before. Is my aim a lot better? I mean, I'm sure it's better to some degree, but I don't think it was completely bunk when I was playing the Kongo more often. So I don't know. But anyway, I do enjoy the Kongo now. Ooh. I was going to give it a Hegon, but I guess that wasn't a dev strike. Anyway, the Kongo is a very interesting ship. It's lightly armored. It's a battle cruiser, but you can steeply line it up. That'd be great firing angles on this thing. And I think good battleship players in particular could really make the Kongo shine. And this is another one I'm going to bust out. I'll probably try most of these battleships just to see how they're actually performing once the rank starts. But Kongo, I think it should be a good option. You kind of have to play a longer range, though, because of the lightly armored nature of it. And, that's maybe when the accuracy issues are coming into play. And it's also, at least out of my builds, it has the longest range. So I think the Japanese battleships tend to perform as a whole at long ranges for the, opening half of the game at least. And then depending on what's going on, you can alter your strategy from there. But Kongo, I think it's going to be interesting just because it's all the other battleships of this tier really kind of the same mentality, just big, bulky, pretty well armored. The end of the World War I thinking when it came to battleships. Kongo, on the other hand, is just kind of a heavily armored cruiser or a lightly armored battleship, however you want to look into it. It does have 356s on here, same as the Americans. The AP damage on this is just a smidge behind my Iron Duke. Whichever one actually does the best damage in your Navy probably depends on your commanders, who you're employing, and what the builds are, what the levels of the commanders are, because it's pretty close with the Iron Duke and the Kongo in terms of damage output. Bretagne, for instance, it's more in line. I'll just give you the numbers. I got 11,212 on Iron Duke for AP damage. I got 11,016, so basically 11,000 for the Kongo. 10,379 for Bretagne, and 10,300 for Texas/New York, and then Koenig drops down to like 9,135. And I don't think I adjusted that since the nerf, so it's probably even lower than that unless I adjusted it and forgot about it. But anyway, that's kind of the breakdown. So on paper, at least, you know, the Kongo's right up there. Getting into the New York, getting into the Texas, functionally there's not a whole lot of a difference between the ship. You know, you'll look at the stats minorly tweaked here, this stat's minorly tweaked there, but on the whole it's essentially the same thing. Now, my opinion of this ship might be colored because I played the majority of the game since the majority of the time since the game came out. I had Dewey as my battleship commander. Those of you that have been following the channel since the game came out know that I got a little bit of a beef with Dewey. I bumped him down to a desk job now. He's not running my kit. He's not doing jack shit in my Navy. He's sitting at the desk, and it's because he pissed me off early on. He couldn't hit anything. And so my early impressions with the New York, early impressions with the Texas are wildly inaccurate. Now, I've run these ships with Sims a couple times since I got him finally, and they do perform a little bit better. But again, the majority of my personal experience with these ships is with suboptimally set up, at least in my opinion. So keep that in mind. If you have a difference of an opinion on these American battleships, let me know in the comments. But I just don't think they're going to be all that effective. They're very easily attacked from the front or the rear. The American battleships tend to be heavily armored on the sides, especially at the waterline. That's kind of the main design, philosophy of the American battleships. But these ones in ranked battle, I just don't think they're going to have the durability and the staying power to really do much. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, but we'll see. Those of you Iowa jockeys who've got Sims at level 16, Legendary 4, pop into these and let me know how they're performing next week once ranked happens. I mean, like I said earlier in the video, none of these ships performing amazingly would surprise me. None of them performing kind of below expectations would surprise me either. Tier 4 battleships, in my mind, and again, this isn't my most played tier, this isn't my area of expertise by any means. I just don't see a whole heck of a lot of difference between these. Those of you guys that specialize in lower tiers, if you have something that I'm missing, let me know in the comments. But all in all, I think you're going to have success across the board. But for me, I'm going to run Bretagne. I'll probably run some Kongo, some Iron Duke, and we'll go from there. So when you are piloting these things, and I don't like to give this advice because I'm going to be playing a fair amount of cruisers, but battleships, your main job is to be popping the cruisers for this thing, because I still think that each team is going to have X amount of cruiser players. I think whoever's got the best cruiser player or the cruiser player that performs the best that round, they're going to have a pretty significant advantage, and I think those teams are going to be winning a lot of games. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong about that. That's going to do it for this one, though. You can see on the score here, this ship is definitely capable of putting up the numbers. So if you did like this one, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. A lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions for me, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.